Welcome back to another episode of John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the responsibility assignment matrix, sometimes known by the acronym RAM or sometimes called RAM, whichever may be your case. So why am I talking about the responsibility assignment matrix? The reason why is all deals with stakeholders. What it is you're going to do with the individuals that are going to be impacted or believe that they're going to be impacted by the project. The RAM, Responsibility Assignment Matrix, is one of several tools that you can actually use. So let's kind of walk through the process here. Very first step is that you need to identify all of your stakeholders. Now, if I'm in a team setting, if somebody says that somebody's a stakeholder and I disagree, honestly, I just would not get into the debate. I would just go ahead and put them up on the list. The issue is not who is a stakeholder. The issue is what are you going to do with them as a stakeholder. In some cases, it might actually be nothing on that side. In a traditional manner, then after you identify the stakeholders, you're going to analyze. Very popular model is going to be power and interest. We've already covered that in previous episodes. I may talk about a little bit later on in other future episodes. There's also the salience model, power, urgency, and legitimacy on those pieces. And then you have to have your strategy. What is it that you're actually going to do with these individuals? So let's come back to that RAM, Responsibility Assignment Matrix. It is a very, very powerful tool. Within the PMP domain, the most common one that we happen to use, acronym that we happen to use, is RACI, RACI. So what does it stand for? R stands for responsible, A stands for accountable, C stands for consulting, I stands for informing. However, it's not necessarily what it stands for that's important. It is what does it mean? That is what is critical. Responsible, these are all the doers, the helpers, the ones who are actually going to do the work. Accountable, there can only be one who has the bottom line authority. They can say yay or they can say no. Most likely like the team leader, project manager, or key stakeholder, whatever may be the case. But there should only be one. Then you have consulting. These are the folks that you touch bases before the fact, and then inform, you touch bases with them after the fact. You let them know what we're going to do on that side. That is about the most elementary form that you can. Now, even though I said it was elementary, doesn't mean it's not powerful. It is very powerful, but there are other models that you could use within the responsibility assignment matrix. I'm not going to go through all of them. Somewhere in the show notes, I'll have a list some of the more common ones. You could Google them, just as well. But, just for this episode, sometimes we'll use PARIS. Now, what does PARIS stand for? Well, first off, how do we spell it? PARIS. The P stands for participant. The A stands for accountable. The R stands for review required. The I stands for input required. And the S stands for signed off required. Now, if history serves me well, I believe PARIS came first and then RACI came second. But it doesn't really matter. The point that I want to make is that do not get caught up in like one acronym or another. In fact, start off with it as a baseline and then adapt it to your specific organization. PARIS, sometimes I do like PARIS, and the reason why is because it has like sign off required. And if you have a sheet of paper, you can actually have a list of signatures that are required in order for this approval or this approval, in order for this request to be approved. If everybody has signed off on it, then that means that it has been approved. All the appropriate parties have looked at it, and we can move forward on that side. So that's one reason why I like PARIS, just as a matter of fact. A couple of things that you may want to be concerned about, though, is C&I, consulting and informing, in broad strokes. Do you need to touch bases before you make a decision, or can you just tell them simply afterwards? On a personal note, I would always be careful if you lock yourself in to say, I'm going to consult with you. Make sure it's very valid. Make sure it's reasonable. On a personal note, I've been caught in a situation where, for whatever reason, I felt that, or my team felt that we had to consult with some individuals in a different part of the organization. And that individual did not touch bases with us for 2 days, not for 2 weeks, but actually took them 2 months to get back to us. And we're in a position where we felt that we could not move until we got a response back. Ever since then, I've been very cautious. Now, if I have to consult with somebody, what I will say is, or words to this effect, be politically polite and correct and all those other kind of things. But hey, since time is of the essence, I'm going to consult with you. But if I don't receive a response back within 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever is reasonable, we're going to go ahead and make the decision and move forward, on that side. And that's just so that you don't get, caught up, Now, on social media, I have noticed where some individuals will say, oh, let's change RACI, responsible, accountable, consulting, and informed. We need to call it something else. You know what? In my mind, you can call it whatever you want. Honestly, it really is kind of between you and the team. It's not so much as what somebody says it should be called. It's what the action steps that you want the team to take towards those particular stakeholders. That is what is important. The other good thing that's also important, it lets people know what their action item is. It is helpful to know that, you are going to be helping out on this project. In other words, sometimes we get this ESP thing where we just think or imagine somebody knows. And sometimes it's helpful to say, no, you're actually assigned to this, or we need you to do this. Sometimes it's helpful to be fairly clear. Just like consulting and informed. Again, I've used this in larger organizations. One particular organization, they had resources, human resource people, spread over 16 different countries. And before we actually implemented this, it was a little bit of a challenge, as you can imagine. 16 different countries, 16 different languages, time zones, all this other stuff. We put in a responsibility assignment matrix. It cleared up the organization. So now we can actually focus on what was actually important. So that's on a large scale use. But you know what? It works in a smaller organization just as well. All right. Well, that kind of does us, for this episode, on John the PM. Our sincere hope is that that you find this of value. If you do, go and hit the subscribe button, the like button. It helps us to be a service back to you. In the meantime, may all of your projects be successful.